A balding man in a black suit and a white dog collar appeared from one side of Shipyard. At the same moment my aunt swooped round the other side on her bicycle. She braked hard, jumped off her bike with a little run, and waited for the vicar to come level with her. They chatted as they walked towards us. I heard her greet him with syrupy sweetness. "Oh, good morning, Vicar. How are you? Such lovely weather." She then began to apologize, even before he could get a word out. "I'm a little late this morning. My nephew, you know, makes a lot of extra work." The vicar was not to be outdone in oily courtesy. "My dear lady, how delightful to see you. Yes, indeed, it is fine weather. Our Heavenly Father is generous. But I fear it's possible to have too much of a good thing. The Farmers' Union has asked us to pray today for rain to ensure a bountiful harvest. I've chosen some suitable hymns as well. So, your nephew has arrived. I hope he's settling in all right. When will I have the pleasure of meeting him?" "You can meet him right away," replied my aunt. "He's standing there with Winifred, by the church gate." The vicar turned his gaze in my direction. I disliked the way he ran his eye all over me. I felt a hot rush of embarrassment. "Oh, the dear boy," he gushed, bouncing up and putting his hand on my head. "Welcome, my son. How you must have suffered in London, but you'll be all right here under the care of your dear, loving aunt." I felt an immediate dislike of him and his manner. I could in no way consider myself his son. I was in serious doubts about the lovingness of my aunt, and I detested the touch of his hand. I wriggled out from under it and feigned interest in a non-existent object on the far horizon. "Silent little chap, isn't he?" observed the vicar. I smouldered inside. I could have kicked him hard. "Say good morning to Father Hardcross," ordered my aunt with a steely look in her eye. "Good morning, Reverend Hardcross," I said mechanically. Damned if I was going to address him as father. My aunt didn't. She used the term vicar. "It's customary to address the vicar with the title father," chided my aunt. "He's not my father," I muttered between clenched teeth. "What did you say, my son?" inquired the vicar affably, placing his hand on my head again and bending his ear down to the level of my mouth. Winifred came to my rescue. I could have kissed her. "Good morning, Father Hardcross," she said brightly. Then she explained, "What he said was, 'It's hot, my father.'" The vicar turned to me and beamed. "Indeed, yes, it is hot for the time of year. It's been so dry. The farmers are in need of rain. Yes, indeed." He paused and tilted his head sideways to size me up as he said to my aunt, "Shy young chap, isn't he?" I squirmed out from under his hand again and decided to show him how wrong he was by turning on the charm tap. I smiled confidently at him and put on the same syrupy sweet voice that my aunt had used. "I'm so sorry, Vicar. It's just that I'm not yet used to village ways. It takes a little while to get adjusted. Everything is so different. Your smart suit, for example." "My smart suit?" said the vicar, astonished, looking down at himself. "Yes, indeed, Vicar," I replied, taking a leaf out of his own book. "At the convent, the priests all wore long robes like dresses. They looked very old-fashioned. Your suit is smart and modern-looking." The vicar seemed very pleased with this little speech. He smoothed the lapels of his suit with both hands and smiled warmly down at me. "What were you doing in a convent, my son?" My aunt quickly answered for me. "The nuns from the convent ran the orphanage he was in." Her intervention gave me time to work out a plan which might stop him calling me my son. "At the convent I used to sing in the choir. Winifred says that you have a choir here and are looking for more members. Could I join?" The Reverend Father turned to my aunt. "Can he sing?" My aunt turned her eyes quickly skywards and back again. "I don't know. I've never heard him sing." "Well, if you agree," he said, "I'll speak to Mr. White, the choir master. We can try him out after the service. There's to be a special choir practice, as you know." He looked down at me. "Would you like that, my son?" "I'd like it very much, Vicar," I replied, with as much warm enthusiasm as I could muster. "I would also be really extremely pleased if you could call me by my name. All the other good friends I've made here do." This little request was followed by such a profound silence that I began to feel I'd gone a bit too far this time. The vicar went pink, and then a very broad smile spread slowly over his face. "I've never been offered such a charming compliment before, and from such an unexpected source. I think you must truly be a child of God. As indeed we all are," he added hurriedly. "I'm extremely flattered that you want to consider me your friend." He looked me intently in the eyes, took my hand, held it a moment, then shook it warmly. "Welcome to the parish," he said, and then he called me by my name. He took a large key out of his pocket and waved it in the air like the handle of a silent bell. "Come on, Winifred," he called jovially. "I've got the key to the vestry. The other members of the choir will be arriving in a minute, and we've got to get ready." He walked briskly off towards the east end of the church, still waving the key. "Coming, Vicar," called Winifred. Then she gave me a wink and danced off behind him. I would have liked to follow, but my aunt immediately checked me. "You come with me," she commanded grimly. Her tone made me fear that she had seen through my little game and that I was now to get a ticking off. Fortunately, I was wrong. She merely wanted to show me where to sit. We went into the church through a small porch. A few other churchgoers were beginning to straggle in. I slowed down, looking for the holy water stoup. "Come along now, don't dawdle. I've got things to get ready. What are you looking for?" "Where's the basin for the holy water?" "We don't do that here," she replied irritably, grabbing me by the arm to hurry me along. At the centre aisle, she paused a moment to face the altar and nodded her head. I bent one knee to genuflect, as the nuns had taught me. She pulled me upright roughly, looking around nervously to see if I had been observed. She whispered harshly, as though I was supposed to know, "We don't do that here. This is a village church." We continued on across the nave to the south aisle, at the front end of which was the organ. I looked around in vain for the confessional. "Where's the confessional?" I whispered. My aunt stopped dead in her tracks and glared down at me. "Where do you think you are?" she hissed. "Rome? I told you, this is an Anglican church. We don't have one here. Now be quiet and behave yourself." She led me to a pew at the very front, the end of which was partly blocked by a column. There was just enough room between the column and the front of the pew for a thin person to squeeze through. "That's my seat there, when I'm not at the organ. You sit here, next to me." She handed me a hymn book and a prayer book. "Keep quiet and don't fidget." Then she went over to the organ on my immediate right and unlocked the doors enclosing the keyboard cover. She slid them to each side and began to shuffle through some books and sheet music inside. I looked around with interest, but from my place at the front by the column I couldn't see much of the main body of the church. In fact, I couldn't see much of anything. The view ahead was blocked by a massive stone screen, pierced only by an archway in the centre and an arched opening on either side. 3 stone steps led up to the centre archway. I only hoped that from here I might be able to see Winnie when she came in with the choir. Behind me, the church was gradually filling with people. They were mostly women. The men were at the war. There was nobody I recognised. This was hardly surprising, as this was only my 4th day here. Some of the people were exchanging whispers. 1 or 2 were praying. That reminded me that I had promised Mrs. Rumble to say a prayer.